Everyone who watched Jojo's Bizarre Adventure knows Kira Yoshikage, the infamous killer from Morio. He's among the fan favorites as it comes to villains. But did you know there's another Kira Yoshikage in the 8th part of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure? In Jojo Leon, there's another guy called Kira Yoshikage, who is basically the same person but in an alternative universe. And he looks oddly familiar, doesn't he? Well, at least if you watched my recent video about Josuke from part 8, and I will explain why they look so similar in a bit. Also, of course, spoilers ahead. If you didn't read Jojo Leon and you don't want to receive spoilers, you have been warned. For the others, without further ado, let's start right with the video. First up, I'm not going to go into much detail when it comes to the parallels of the two Kiras. I will briefly mention some, but for the most part, I won't explain the Kira from part 4, as I will explain the Kira from part 8. So, who is he? He's the son of Kira Holly Joestar, and he is a sailor. Be exact, he's a doctor on a ship. As it comes to his personality, he's rather narcissistic, as he keeps sculptures of his own hand around his own house, where the first parallel between Kira from part 8 and part 4 is drawn, but the part 8 Kira is more focused on his own hands instead of the hands of others. Also, he seems to have some perverted tendencies, as he's keeping pictures of women in compromising poses around his house as well. But on the other hand, he's very organized and, for example, keeps his fingernails in little jars with the date of them being cut on it. He is no villain, but he's also no hero. He's shown to have little care for the ones around him. For example, while on his ship, a crewmate is injured and he shows little effort to help him. In general, the interactions with others display him as someone with little care for those around him. For example, there's another character called Sasame who is insulted and intimidated by Kira to the point where he bites off his own fingers. And all that just because Kira had a personal problem with him because he was a surfer. He is not all bad though. He risks his life to save his mother from a deadly disease, and also, in the end, he sacrifices himself for a friend of his who's called Josefumi. So character-wise, on the surface, he's very rude and he doesn't care for the ones around him, but in all actuality, he is more empathetic than you can see on the first glance. But let's go back to Josefumi and Kira. Their relationship is rather special for Kira because he shows compassion and somewhat respect for Josefumi. They met at an early age, where Josefumi was on the brink of death because he almost drowned. Kira saved him with his stand ability, which I will explain later as well, but for now you only need to know he saved him and that they got really good friends. In the quest to save Kira's mother, Josefumi got injured to the point where he almost died. This is where Kira sacrifices his life to save Josefumi. After this event, Josuke is basically born. Josuke is a mixture of Josefumi and Kira, which I've already said in a previous video. In conclusion, the character of Kira Yoshikage in Jojo Leon follows the simple pattern of hard shell, soft core, and basically is a loyal and compassionate person deep down, but only really to the ones he's really close to, and he's somewhat impulsive and also, of course, narcissistic, as he keeps statues of his own hand and keeps his fingernails in little jars. The character just works because everybody knows someone who's rather mean and weird to the ones around him, but in all actuality is a kind person if you really get to know him. While the narcissistic and perfectionist tendencies of his stand for the little things, the little flaws everyone has.
Killer Queen!
Kira's Killer Queen is very renowned by now, but the Killer Queen from part 8 is very different to the Killer Queen from part 4. Killer Queen can create explosions. Basically everything he touches can be made into a bomb, which he can then detonate on command. In the case of Killer Queen from part 8, the stand shoots bubbles which explode and turn anything basically into bombs. Also, the explosions aren't that small as in part 4. They have reach and also affect the environment around them. In part 4, they don't. Now, the really interesting ability of the Killer Queen from part 8 is a ability called Sheer Heart Attack. Sheer Heart Attack is this little tank that can basically explode, but it will stay functional. Basically, it won't be destroyed with the explosion. Now, Killer Queen in part 8 can make multiple of these. And many by that. Also, he can change the size of them. He can make them very, very small, or like the size of an average hand, I'd say, probably. Anyways, he uses those little sheer heart attacks to destroy a blood crumb inside a vein of his friend Josefumi, and thereby saves his life. And the fact that he saved his life as they met first, and he also saved his life in his last moments by sacrificing himself, wraps up the character of Kira Yoshikage in part 8 very, very well. As he is portrayed as not really caring, but deep down he cares and also gives his life for his closest friend that he saved so long ago. So they met while he saved him, and they last saw each other while he saved him again. And that's about it with Kira from part 8. I really do enjoy this character. I really think he's well written and a very cool background to the story of Josuke, and he contributes to the world building very, very well. Tell me what you think about him in the comments, and also tell me which character I should explain next. I think I might do Diego Brando from part 7, but just tell me which one you would like to see, and I will see you in the next one.
キラクイーン